So
Mhm.
it's also
Okay.
actually we're doing that today because I've already started the new ideas, and it's like no, I want to wrap up before I jump in.
Good girl. Good girl. Changing behaviors.
No, but steadily.
Mhm.
Okay, so how do you? So first of all, I would really want to thank you for helping me take the journey back and understanding what happened the last 2 months in Conscious Gems. It has been packed of information. 2 months. It's like a huge amount of information, and I have to admit that I slowly just start taking them down into my awareness and embodying them. And as I was telling you also, like privately before, when I do my wrap-ups normally alone, I tend to become very pragmatic sometimes. And you have the ability to open me up into more magic and more flow. So thank you so much for taking the time to do that together. And also it would be amazing to also see like your perspective also, because you were part of it in the last almost 3 weeks practically. So 2 different perspectives, one longer, one shorter, but definitely engaged. That's for sure. Yeah, what do you think? How should we start? I leave it on you.
Oh, there's so many different ways of doing this. What came first was to start with your personal journey and to sort of connect sort of the Aliki that you are now to Aliki the evening before traveling to France.
I'm sure I remember. Okay.
Yeah,
Let's
just
see.
go back a bit and see what comes. What can you like? Are there memories? Are there feelings? How do you view that person from where you are sitting now?
Okay, give me 1 second to tap back into the Aliki 2.5 months ago. Okay, I can see different. I can see expectations about what I can see expectation and excitement of what will happen in the next days as I'm tapping back into myself before traveling to France. With a strong feeling that something like a new circle is opening. And with the conviction that I kind of know how it will go and I kind of have it under control. So wrong. Also, yep. With the idea, yeah, I mean, with a strong belief that this will become just the beginning of a long-term accommodation or living or staying in south of France. And that's what exactly we needed, like to create a stable home in that region, both for me and for Marco Moore. I was kind of curious with the people who decided to join us, but I was also feeling them already kind of close somehow because I had the time to talk to them. And with no idea how much I will see about myself during these 2 months.
Would you have done it if you had known?
You know, one of the best moments was right in the end, before we left the farm of Natalie, that I was realizing that I wouldn't have changed, not even one moment, and not even one person. Like, it was, even if when you were inside the situation, it maybe wasn't feeling that this is supposed to happen. The way it all finished, it kind of made me realize that it couldn't have happened in another way. It's exactly as it should, with all the drama and then the ups and downs and the beautiful moments and the connections and the disconnections and the connections again. And yeah. But you always see things when you're looking back, right? You can never see them when you're inside or when you're looking forward.
They certainly look different.
Yep, that's true.
Mm-hmm. And who are you now? After the big washing machine of 2.5 crazy months.
That's a good question. I find myself feeling more rich, and it's a very interesting feeling, because I feel that I have people, like I feel that I have people who were already able to support one of my crazy ideas, and they were able to gain also experience through that, and maybe they're slowly understanding, or they will understand what this offered them in a way. And it's something magical when you, for the first time, you complete something that is entirely yours. Like, it's from the moment it started to the moment it ended, it had so much to do about yourself. It has so much to do about your visions, what you're bringing to the world, like who you want to be, who you want to be around, where you want to be, and it's like everything, And it kind of gives you the confidence that there's no limits. And I find myself in that. I find myself in the feeling of really infinite possibilities. At the same time, I'm allowing myself in this period now to let go of the excess of responsibility that I attached myself into this project. So yeah, for your previous question, would I have done things differently? Maybe some of them from my side, It's kind of different. Yeah, you always think that this I could have done differently. But I really love the place I really love the place that I find myself right now. Yeah, there's definitely a lot learned from it, for me also personally, not only professionally, not only as a group experience, not only as a creator, etc., etc., etc. So that's where I am.
Okay, so let's talk about the riches. You said you feel more rich now. I think inner wealth can be expressed in different images. So yeah, what are the riches that you found? 4 conscious gems as well. Like what is it that you now have in your little backpack that you take to the next endeavor, whatever that will be?
Some of the more
one you
obvious
said,
ones.
yeah.
Yeah. one of the most obvious ones. Let's say it's the knowledge of permaculture, for example, that I had no idea what exactly it means, and it's a field that is really, really limitless. And I catch myself already start applying it subconsciously into the next steps, and it's beautiful. And I feel that this can really support. Actually, I feel that this is a very interesting tool for me to create systems that support themselves and support others. And that was something that was missing before. I was not really confident that I could support my system and I could support correctly others. And this is one tool that makes me feel richer. Another tool is the very close connection that we developed with the guys, with everybody, even the ones who were for a shorter period of time like you, but also the ones who were there the whole 2 months. And it's extremely interesting because the other day I was literally feeling the tribe. So I could feel the threads starting from me and going to the guys. And I just remember that when the shamans start the ceremony in the Amazons, they always say that the tribe is with them. They always feel the tribe with them. And it was feeling like that. It was feeling that I can really feel the support and the love, and it's there. And it doesn't matter if you don't talk every day, you really feel this connecting line. And this is really so valuable. Like, you kind of feel that you have your back covered no matter what. And this is a beautiful feeling and allows you to be able to grow much further. So these are the 2 most important ones. And then, of course, all the memories and all the experiences and all the moments and all what happened, and so many insights. So many. It's like every day I get a whole book of new information delivered from these 2 months, and some of them very spiritual, some of them very functional, some of them like the whole spectrum, you know, like it's not only spiritual, it's not only functional, it's like from small details how the food could have been different, or I don't know, the transportation or something that's like very, very pragmatic, until why things happened the way they happened and how we can allow the next steps to unfold more in flow somehow. So yeah, it's definitely a very full basket of gifts that I was offered through that. Also, one more thing, and I do have to add that actually. I see people that we had a communication, a business communication, gaining more respect towards me for having done that, and I'm valuing my opinion even more, and kind of understand, like I don't know, it kind of feels that was a little bit of a vote of trust that it's not only about talking, it's about actually creating what you're envisioning. And the more you manifest things into the physical world and you bring it together and it happens, the more the universe kind of trust that you could grow further, and it starts bringing bigger opportunities. So it kind of feels that like a step, and it's beautiful to see because it comes very naturally. The next steps come much more naturally than the first ones. The first needed a little bit of force in the beginning to start, and now it's just coming much more naturally. So this is also very interesting to observe as a gift.
Mm-hmm. 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 So it's part of the like the foundation of Conscious Gems. It's a part of what you can build your house on.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You said in the beginning that you started off with this notion of knowing what would happen, and you thought you had everything under control. I'm guessing you did not. And I also witnessed some instances where you luckily did not have it under control. What would you say was the biggest surprise factor that you had to adapt to on the journey? Like, what is the biggest major thing that turned out differently from what you were expecting?
I guess one of the biggest one was the finances. The second was the nutrition, and it was funny because it was the two major pillars of starting the first project. So the project was always dreamed of becoming financially sustainable during these 3-4 first months, and also explore the idea of sacred food. So it's very funny that I had in my mind that these two explorations in the finances and in the food will happen with a very steadily upward line. So we will take some steps and then we will just continue, and it will be just a very stable line going upwards and then always making it better. When in reality, what happened is that we were thrown into the extreme opposite to realize how to bounce back. And that was unexpected. That was stressful, very stressful in some times. But it also created the biggest opportunities for growth in the end. So I'm like having completed the circle, I kind of feel that it was very important for that to happen the way it happened, so we can have the deep healing mostly in the finances part that happened in the last circle. But these are two things that while I was inside the project, I was feeling that it was going completely wrong, and I had pushed many times to correct it. That was also a very big learning, that the more you push, the more the situation is pushing back. So it doesn't bring so many results, except from opposition. That was a very interesting learning. And in that direction, the whole group dynamics was really, really interesting, because it was also the opposite of what I was expecting.
How?
I guess that as mostly functioning as an individual in my personal life, I'm aware of the amount of energy being the output of energy, what kind of effect it will bring. But in a group dynamic, it can have multiplied effects. So sometimes you really need to do very tiny movements instead of the normal ones that you would do normally, because these tiny movements get magnified. And this goes in both directions, right? In the correction of a direction, but also in the way you interact with others. So, and that's something that I didn't really know, like the amount of effect that the reaction can have in a group dynamic. Very interesting.
You were talking about nutrition. Can you describe a little bit of what was the dynamic? What happened?
From my point of view, what happened was that the whole experience was quite intense. It seems that the group intensifies everything, intensifies the good moments, intensifies the bad moments, intensifies the difficulties, intensifies the magic, intensifies everything. And this continuous intensity, which also is the factor of a faster activation, right? So it's like part of the game, but this continuous intensity was creating the need to, how can I say, to relax the system in ways that are not obvious. And one of these ways is actually the food. So many times when you're feeling emotional, when you're feeling insecure, you're just gonna go eat something because your mind translates it to the basic needs, to the food, when this is not exactly what we are missing. But the translation is happening in this level. So I feel that what happened is that the amount of food and the types of foods that we were eating, even though it was like vegetarian food, the amount and the types were really covering other needs, and it was in excess. So the amount was much more than I would normally eat in my personal life. And also like the bread and the cheese, for example, it was like in complete excess. It was not normal. So this really made me think a lot of why it's happening. And
what was the transformation that you saw? Because you spoke of being surprised that in the end it turned out good somehow, but what was it that you saw? What happened?
so that was mostly in the financial part. So as what happens, like in the first month, we overspend from the budget. So we practically spend parts of the budget of the next month. So that brought us into a very tricky financial situation very fast, actually, which created two dynamics. One of them, to go into full transparency, so everybody knew exactly what we have to spend and what we don't, but also created a level of stress, as you can imagine, in the team. And this level of stress, I also think, contributed into the amount of food consumed.
And so on and so forth.
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
it's interesting, isn't it?
Exactly.
To go absolutely
Yeah.
like
Exactly. And also but that was also what created the magical moment with the session of the finances in the end of the PGC course. And because it was a situation that was created from one of our members that had to leave after 1 month. And this was bringing together a question about refund, no refund, and what does that mean? And is this person a member of the group? So she has to receive what the others are receiving, or is she not? So it was about inclusion, exclusion, etc. So it was bringing a lot of questions together with the actual facts that the member left that had prepaid the next 2 months and had to be somehow refunded. And I was really not expecting that it would be solved the way it was. Actually, I was not expecting that it would be solved at all, to tell you the truth. I was really not very sure that we will find a way to communicate, because there was also the level of not authentic and open communication in this specific relationship in the beginning. Or actually, it's not that it was not authentic, but it was not flowing, that's for sure. And what practically happened is that creating so much pressure and heat around the subject, everybody needed to stay there and go through it. That's how I say it. Like everybody was really wanting to solve it once and for all. And that once and for all, I kind of triggered the actions that happens, like I mean, just to put it into context, what happened in the last session of the finances, we moved from a situation of debt into a situation of a surplus, practically by tapping into our heart space and understanding the deeper value and meaning of what we have created. And this was literally a leap. It was literally the real dissolution of a conflict, in that instead of just a negotiation that works for both sides, or kind of works for both sides, and a very deep healing into the first chakra, which has to do with economics and security and value. I don't know where I'm getting with this, but I just wanted to express a bit what happened. Yeah, so if the situation was not so tight, I will call it, we would have solved it with the traditional ways of negotiating. And it would have been fine. But I feel that what happened was extremely more important than just having some kind of refund back in your bank account. I could see, and actually talk to it with her, and it was feeling that it was something much deeper released than just, because it was not really about the money. It was really beyond. It was really about value. It seems that it's never actually really about the money. It's the emotional courage that they bring. Yeah. So did we need that hit? Maybe. I don't know. Would I repeat it? I'm not sure. It was challenging.
Well, who knows? Maybe conscious gems can become part of the collective healing around the money wound that this society carries. And yeah, to maybe add to that, because I was there and I was part of facilitating the process, what I saw was the magic that happens when individuals decide to trust. When individuals decide to trust, a container is created that has unlimited potential. And the depth of the conflict, like how heated it was, and how threatening it was to the whole concept of conscious gems. Like, I mean, this is your finances, right? This is what you have to sort of base everything else on. The magnitude of that compared to the outcome was just magic. And I think to me it seems like this could be one first step of creating something within conscious gems that allows other people to have this experience. Because the world we are seeing is based on non-trust. Because that's the economic concept that we've learned. That's what 5,000 years of money system have done to us. And it was a big privilege to be there and witness that we can overcome this. That it's not part of who we truly are, but it is something outside of us that we choose to stick to, unconsciously in most cases, yet we choose to do that. And I saw a group of people choosing differently.
Yeah, that's very.
And yes, it was tiring, and but it was more than worth it, because the energy afterwards, there's not even a word for it, I don't think.
Yeah.
that really captures it. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And actually it was this deep feeling of understanding that something has shifted, like these 2 months, that something happened, that there was some work that you cannot put into, it happened there and there and there, but it kind of like made us understand that we can step into deeper trust. And the finance is a tricky subject, so it's really quite of a deep level of trust. Yeah.
Yeah, because what happens is that the linear time concept, numbers, figures, amount of money, meets the every time, like the infinite space of time. And so also what I saw happen is that a group of people, every individual with a different financial background, and they really did vary quite a lot, accepted their responsibility for holding the container. And that is not translatable into amounts of money, but it is translatable into, do I have the courage to stand in this fire with all that I have and do not have, just with who I am? And that actually happened, and it creates a spiral of energy that just makes anything possible.
Yeah. How was it? How did you experience, like, how was it for you that you were not really part of the first period who created, in a way, this problem, but you were in the part of the solving it or discussing it? How was it for you?
I would say it was easier because I was not so entangled. And I'm a person who is very clear on what, or I tend to become very clear very quickly on what I give and what I take, and if there's a balance or not. And yet, as you described in the beginning, every action becomes multiplied in a group, and I had not had so much experience with that specific group for my energy and my actions to be entangled with all of you. So it was easier for me to really hold the container with Maurizio, because the two of us were in a different role somehow in that moment. And so it was easier for me. And at the same time, I was already so much part of it that, the connections created were already so deep that I had complete trust that you guys would trust me. And that also was important. I was not in a single instant worried about whether anybody is going to blah, blah, blah. I didn't care because I knew this was important, and this was more important than any sort of, personal experience. Yeah, so I think I very clearly still have the feeling that was mainly why I was called to go there. Because I had no idea why the call was, 4 days before driving to France, I decided to actually attend. So, and it was quite clear to me that the organism or the field of conscious gems of that group somehow had called.
That's for sure. And the way you step into the role of a co-facilitator during the whole course was very interesting. And that was also a very interesting realization that when the group became bigger, it was more stable. So the diversity, it really stabilized much more the whole constellation, because everybody had a different role, and automatically some people will be the space holders because this is what is their power, right? And other people will be a different driving force, and other people will be more like the elders, and other people will be the young energy. So that was also very interesting to observe how it changed the dynamics, and how much easier actually it was with more people, impressively enough.
Mm-hmm.
That was something unexpected also. I was expecting it would be the opposite. But yeah.
Yeah.
What are you taking back with you, like from this experience?
Lots and lots of things, of course, but there's some that stick out. One is the personal realization of, I think we talked about this before privately, what I can do when I feel safe, what I'm capable of when I enter an environment that somehow establishes a safety net or a basic trust. And that was quite an experience. I know this of myself, but it was never like, I've never had an experience this clear and this powerful and empowering. And I'm taking also the realization that I want to be in environments that allow for strength and letting go. Because that's something I observed in a lot of people, and it also happened for me. I found more and more ways of softening, of just breathing into what was happening, and things just flowed. I overcame some quite difficult personal challenges in the process regarding the PDC course. Like there was stuff happening that needed a lot of strength, but it was not in the sort of harsh energy that I know so well from everywhere in this society.
Can you understand which elements created this dance?
Well, certainly the spiritual, the allowing for spiritual practices, the allowing for different approaches to spirituality, and the not forcing anything spiritual. Like there was a great balance of nobody had to, but everything was welcome. And as I'm a spiritual person, I was able to channel some very powerful stuff because I knew that I do not have to worry about anybody being scared of this or doing this or that. And that there was a lot of things quite balanced somehow. For example, the obvious striving for living sustainably, and at the same time knowing that we are going to fail. Yeah, so there was always this it seemed to me there was a lot of awareness, or the wish to arrive in the awareness that we are human. And that we are by default at the moment still having to fail this earth in a lot of ways, because we are the group that was there, maybe apart from Maurizio, I'm not so sure, I don't know, but we still all have one foot in this crazy plastic driven economic harsh weird mindset.
Yeah.
And so I felt that there was a lot of honesty about that, and a lot of also standing up for oneself in that, saying this is what I can do and this is too far. I'm trying and I will arrive, but and there was a lot of dancing like that. And that made for a very honest and truthful vibe that I connected with immediately. Like it took me, I don't know, 2 hours, and then I was in that field. And
Yes,
I mean,
I can see
of
that.
course, Maurizio was a big part of that. I think he
Yeah.
as I perceive him, he creates this sort of field. But it could not have landed if it hadn't been prepared. So
yeah, and if you had the soil also, of course. Yeah, this was always, I mean, this is something that's, it was very interesting that everybody was themselves, like with the flaws and the goods and the moments and all kinds of moments and everything. But you could see the person, like it was clear that that was the person that you were saying. And a person in evolution, of course, as we all are. So you could even see the differences between the days, or even the changes. Like in one day, like a person was like super straight and focused, and the other day was completely the opposite. And kind of a feeling that is human nature in the end, and allowing it to happen. But I can feel what you say. That's just that the realization where everybody stands in a way, because it was 2 months that we were in a container, that the dynamics were different, the laws were different, everything was different, but still everybody had their minds that this will be completed and they will be back into the life that they left behind. And I'm very curious to see how these lives will be transformed, because I'm pretty sure they will. I already have Mauricio like talking to me every time I'm in the supermarket. I'm like, shh.
I know. It's in my head too. Yeah. And one other thing that I take is the very strong realization that I want to be in intercultural communities more. Because I feel that a lot of the strength of this experience was enabled by the different cultural backgrounds. By, it's the small things or the big things, but there's always different language, different approach, and the necessity to translate. And that makes us very aware. And it doesn't allow for us to fall into certain patterns, to take things for granted in some aspects, because there is always the effort to get across to the other person.
Yeah,
and
that's a good point.
That really contributed a lot to this experience. And we haven't talked about it in depth yet, but the global village idea, and this idea of how do we relate from culture to culture and find the common denominators. And it has awakened such a longing to continue this, because it's so valuable, and it makes me feel much more alive, much more aware, much more connected, and flexible, and it's interesting, it's fun, it's different things.
That's
that
an
you can
interesting
learn.
point. I'm feeling the same about the difference of generations, because we practically have from 20s to 60s, which is quite a big like variety. And I feel the same, that you were able to get the flavor of every age. And that was very interesting to see. From interest to power to scheduling to everything. It was just, it was a micro, like it was scaled down, the scale down of the community, because it had like parts of everything that you see outside. And also the other interesting thing was that you could always find all the characters played around from the group. It didn't matter if you were taking out, I don't know, the clown, somebody else will step into the role of the clown for the season to balance. And that was very interesting to see. And also to observe the unseen worlds, so the unseen structures. So how people, without even having to talk about it, they create respect towards their face, and others not, right? and how does that play out, and what is the connection between the presence and the words. That was also very interesting to observe, and you had very different people that were approaching it very differently, so that was something.
Yes, so I think we've pretty much come to the almost transition to the future. So if there was one thing that you could thank the other people for that were there, what would it be from your personal heart center?
For being there 100%, like all of them were completely immersed, like 300%, and that was unexpected, because in the beginning I was expecting some people that they will have parallel jobs to do, or like parallel things happening, and everybody was really, 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 really in, like full on, and that's very valuable. Like I understand the amount of contribution and what that makes to the human psyche to really jump onto something and do it 100%. That's something that kept me amazed through the whole period. It never got normal. It was always like a surprise. That was one thing. The second was believing in it, like having people believing in your crazy dream. Understanding that there are other people who have the same vision for the world, like this is amazing. I think these two are the strongest. And then, of course, I really have to appreciate a lot the human contact. Like there was so beautiful and second thoughts free human contact in the group. That was very nice to experience. So all the hugs, like in the human piles, and waking up with two people around you and feeling comfortable about it, and really breaking down all the concepts of who is a man and a woman, if like the shower is closed, and like if I would be seen differently, and just being seen as a human being practically, and not as a woman in the constellation of a group. That was beautiful. That was really something. It really was feeling like a family, and that's a feeling that I have been missing sometimes in my life. And it also makes that each one of them was irreplaceable. You couldn't have put another person in their position. It had to be them there.
Yeah, and the last thing you said, I absolutely concur. It's having just come home now and slowly realizing what is going on in a lot of other parts of this world. It's unbelievably nourishing to have those 2 weeks or almost 3 weeks of close contact, and at the same time I'm feeling very challenged to bridge that to being once more on my own, because human physical contact is the one thing I cannot sort of create on my own. It's not possible. And so I'm immensely grateful. And also, I mean, we did not once talk about Corona. We did not once have to find guidelines or who is called. It was different, and it was
and not even in the beginning, it was really never a subject. It's very funny. It was just never a subject. But I feel it also had to do with just trusting that the person will take, if they feel something, they will take responsibility about it. And like
yes,
this
exactly.
level of trust was
Yes.
not creating any questions anymore.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And that's a very valuable experience also for my work, also for anything that I want to now start. Is I want to create a setting where this sort of level of trust is present.
Yeah.
Because it takes away so much of trying to figure things out, and then energy invested in rules and regulations, and that's really something I think we experienced in those 2 weeks, is that it's possible to grow into saying no and saying yes and saying I need this and I want that and I don't want that, and just to allow for it to be.
Yeah.
And that was quite a valuable learning experience also for me. Yeah.
And this is like, it's exactly what you're saying, that it will, the new steps that have started emerging are exactly based on that. Like, if I can say one thing that we really understood in a different level, is the levels of trust. How far can we go into trusting another human being? And that's exactly where everything that is coming right now, it's really based on that. Without that, it just cannot function. And it's interesting to observe myself building upon that, building with this base right now, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that takes us right into, do you want to share a few next steps before we wrap this up?
So going out of the container and start observing what is being required from us for the next steps, I was realizing that, as Marco very well said, it's a time to empty the vessel so a new stream can come in. So I feel that it's this time of taking space and time. But having said that, at the same time, I cannot avoid of having extreme flows of information coming to me. And that happened actually yesterday. And I am right now in the apartment with a beautiful view, actually, which you are not seeing, of a friend in Lugano. And it was a very interesting exchange of the whole apartment is empty and it's not used from anybody. And they always thought about using it for guests, but it just never happened. And when I told her that I would like to visit her, she realized that she's very busy these 2 days. Nevertheless, she was understanding the need of being closer to nature. And she understood that I'm not coming for vacation. I'm coming to continue on my path and understand what are the next steps. So she offered me to stay here for a couple of nights. And that in correlation with one phrase from her, that she might think about moving from here because she cannot find people that are interesting in her life path right now. So the two together sparked a very interesting idea of bridging places that exist, that they are there, and people who have been dedicating their lives roaming around and being in service, and being able to support both in a way that creates less needs, more value, but also an actual financial support, because we cannot take the third out. It has to be involved. And at the same time, creating a business that is financially sustainable with all of that. And a very interesting model came into my awareness, and I wrote it down, and today I'm discussing it with several people, and it's extremely interesting the magnitude that this can have if we apply it correctly. But it's fundamentally based on trust, not on transactions. So you don't make an exchange of your space for money or of your time for money. You just connect with the person you're supposed to connect, and then you allow the connection to become the way it needs to become without being orchestrated from somebody else. And what you do is practically what we learned in permaculture. You regenerate the soil. So you put money into the base, into the structure, which is the ecosystem, not into the transaction. The transaction is completely based in gift economy. You can come and just have a nice dinner with the owner. You can come and get involved in their project and then create a long-term collaboration. It's upon you, because we cannot like orchestrate human connection. It would be a pity to orchestrate it, actually, because it can become much better than what we think. But we can allow, actually what we can is that to pre-design, or not even, it's not even design, is actually to create the system from a level of trust. So everybody who's involved has actually either been living with one of our ambassadors or working with one of our ambassadors. All our ambassadors people is that I fully trust I could leave my house open tomorrow for them to be inside. So you don't have to go into many insurances and contracts and all of this hassle and battle. And also you kind of guarantee that the connection would be established. Because I mean, as we know from human relationships, once you have a common link, a friend that you really, really, really relate, there is something in common with a third person also, if two people connect to the same person. Mm-hmm. So these are the new steps, and it's very interesting because it can really become a very viable economic model, both for the company behind and for the people involved, even if they're nomads or nodes or like owners, and support places without having to go into the hotel system of renting, and support people that they are actually able to contribute with their own personal gifts into the world, which is also it's a category of people that has been suffering a lot, like healers, musicians, or even wisdom keepers. They have never had an actual financial support from any system. So that's what's coming up, and I'm super excited. At the same time, I'm a little bit like kind of cautious, like, do we have this level of trust already established for this to be created? But for some reason, everybody have talked to, it makes total sense to their heads as a system. So that tells me that maybe we do have a level of trust for this to be kickstarted. How do you hear it?
It creates curiosity, that's for sure, and it triggers a longing, because obviously I'm one of the people who have been roaming around and have not had any financial support really throughout my whole career as musician, healer, theater person. Yeah, so I feel there's something. And I also, the other side I feel is that I've witnessed systems trying to be established, and I've witnessed them fail, and I wonder what is the vital piece of energetic information that needs to be present every time that one of these connections is made, and that, like, what is the gem that links all those nomads to the owners. And yeah,
I feel
so it's interesting too.
That's a very good comment, and actually that's something that I was thinking that would be very interesting to be understood for as a starting point, and just as a starting point, the common gem that will connect is really believing in a new world, and this new world will have to be described. What does it mean? Because many people have very, very different ideas of what does it mean. And it will go through personal resonance. you really cannot automate it like that. And that's the interesting part, that you just cannot automate it. It's impossible. You'll have to be every person contacted and understood if there is resonance, in which level, how far, and it will have to be the 200% sure that it's resonance. Even if it's 75%, will make the system start decaying.
Yeah, that's very interesting, because one of the things that that I took away as feedback for me when leaving the PDC course is that someone said to me, "You create hope. You see only possibilities." And that was quite interesting to me, because it's led to, like, last weekend I had my colleague came and we worked on my own company, and we identified that this is actually the core of our work. This is what we offer to people. We offer a space where it's a given that the potential of people and the good in people exists and is inherent in everyone. And I think that is a very interesting, like, if that is the energetic input, like input and task also, because I mean, we have our ups and downs, right? It's not like we're Jesus. So there is doubt sometimes, or there is, darkness that tries to invade. But if the focus of these connections is to grow deeper and deeper and deeper into this mindset of this different world, then there's something very strong, I feel.
And this is definitely what I'm feeling. I was realizing, like, because the system is based practically upon having ambassadors, right, that will create this network. And what I was realizing is that it's impossible to have somebody as an ambassador if they haven't stepped into a similar camp like the one we did in France. This will be actually the onboarding of new ambassadors, because it's the only way you can create this level of trust. It cannot happen.
Can I be a facilitator, please?
We won't be a facilitator. That's not the question, my dear. Because I'm not a facilitator, that was very clear. I don't want to be either. So you're amazing at that. You should be there.
Wow. Oh, wow. And imagine if we could set this up in the different countries, like starting with the ones that we have.
That's the idea. Many places are coming. Like I already have a call tomorrow with a place in Ibiza, and I talked with an amazing lady in Greece that have a beautiful village. Actually, they are regenerating, an amazing project. So there are many places are coming, but the only way we can send people to these places to really have the soul check. Like, is it really, can I just blindly tell them to go, and I know that this will create something valuable to them? And I feel that what we did in France is really the recipe to be able to do that. And like talk with each one of the 12 of you that I know this person, even though it was 2 weeks, I know the limitations, I know the possibilities, I know that most of it, I know the core values.
Yeah.
So I feel that it will be like the activation of the places and the activation of the members will happen similarly as it happened in France, maybe a little bit shorter, so like maybe 1 month or something like that. And this will create the new ambassadors of this system. We cannot just go digital. It's no. Yeah.
Feels wrong.
And to tell you the truth, I don't want to go just digital. So like it's immersing into that. It's so alive. You feel so alive.
Yeah. And stronger and wiser and more awake, and you name it, it's there.
And also you get so
yes,
insight,
I like it.
You get so many insights of how this should be created. Like this would have never come to my awareness if we didn't have the 2 months in France. I'm sure about that. Like it's very clear, because I have been searching for a very long time for a model that actually works, and it was not there. And we healed the economical part, and I can find a viable economic model that supports all the three parts, and that's something, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm wondering if the second step is about the second chakra, which is enjoying life and opening the sexuality and opening the appetite. And what would that mean? Who knows? Yep.
Yep. Mhm. Yeah.
Let's see.
Mhm. Well,
Thank you for taking me in this journey. It was really beautiful to go back and reflect.
my privilege. It's a very special project, and I'm more than grateful to be part of it now. It's it really is a gem in the sense of the word. Yeah.
So happy to hear that. I loved our connection, and I loved how you were able to just step into your amazing qualities like as soon as you were there. It was beautiful to see. It was really, really beautiful. So to many more.
Yes. Absolutely. Let's make it happen. We're already making it happen. So. Good.
Thank you, my love.
So, when you look back on the past hour, is there anything that's still missing? Do you still need anything? Is there something that still wants to be expressed?
Just a very big thank you for everybody who was there. Like from deep, deep, deep inside my heart. Each one of them were just amazing individuals, and I could see all of them. Like could see so many parts, and I feel honored to be able to see so many parts of them, and having their trust and having their hands and like supporting and their hearts and their minds and everything, and just a very big thank you.
Good. And thank you for holding the dream. And best wishes for the next phase of that dream.
Coming up soon. Sooner than expected, actually, but it's coming. I was thinking until the end of the month, I will just go and reflect. No chance.
Because as a well-known permaculture facilitator says, there is no time.
Exactly. And as a very good friend says, it's just the rush of something needing to be expressed that you feel like time. So there we go.
Yeah. Good, my dear.
So much. I love.
We will talk again.
Have a beautiful, beautiful day.
Bye.